This presentation will share the 2015 work plan of the Rhode Island Shoreline Change Special Area Management Plan, also known as the Beach SAMP. This will provide just a general overview of the work plan, but for more information, please visit beachsamp.org. This slide outlines some of the major activities that we will pursue in 2015, including shoreline change mapping and developing future projections of shoreline position, further developing our storm surge and sea level rise model called Storm Tools, as well as doing site-specific analysis for areas around the state, including Fields Point and the Providence area, working on a project dealing with historic properties and adaptation, engaging in municipal training and providing technical assistance, developing policy recommendations at both the state and local level to accompany the maps and tools created throughout the Beach SAMP, and also engaging in a new area called green infrastructure, which we'll discuss a little bit more about. As I just mentioned, one activity that will occur in 2015 through 2016 is the creation of some future shoreline projection illustrations. And here's an example of what is meant by that, but these maps or illustrations help to visualize how shoreline position will change in the near and distant future based off our current understanding of erosion rates and shoreline change measurements. These can be powerful to help illustrate just how drastic the change of an area like Matunic in South Kingstown could be in the year 2100. We'll also be working on an area that has a huge need of information, and that's adapting historic structures. We'll be working on developing guidance on how to adapt both historic structures or historic districts to sea level rise. And in our discussions with property owners and municipal officials, this seems to be an area of great concern, but there's little information out there or guidance. So while this small grant will be focused in Newport, we hope to create guidance and information that's relevant to other historic districts and areas around Rhode Island. The Beach SAMP team will also be engaged, continue to engage in the Executive Climate Change Coordinating Council, which is also known as the EC4, but it's a council that's made up of all the heads of state agency and focused on climate change issues. And the Beach SAMP team hopes to be involved in informing local guidance on how municipalities can utilize the tools from the Beach SAMP process, as well as inform best management practices and decision-making at the local level. We hope to also provide some assistance in generating recommendations on adaptation and decision-making and how the work from the Beach SAMP can help to inform those activities. Municipal training will be a large focus in 2015 for the Beach SAMP. We hope to engage in a lot of municipal outreach to share the tools that we've already created, but also gather input from local officials on whether or not these tools are useful, how they can be improved, what are some of their issues and challenges dealing with shoreline change, sea level rise, storm surge. Also, we've heard that legal concerns are a large issue that we hope to provide some help in tackling. We'll continue to share programs like the Fortified program, which we'll talk about in the next couple slides. And this is a voluntary program to help increase the resilience of homes and businesses and buildings located along the coast, as well as we hope to hold stakeholder meetings throughout the state so that we can really get a larger stakeholder engagement from other municipalities. We focused a lot on Washington County, and we will continue to do so in 2015, but we do want to make sure that we are getting out to coastal communities throughout the state. As I mentioned, green infrastructure is one new project we'll be starting in 2015, and it will continue on until 2016. But green infrastructure has various different definitions, but basically it's using natural systems and features to deal with either stormwater problems, flooding issues. And this project in particular will be focused on how to use green infrastructure in the coastal environment. And so we're partnering with 3 communities in Rhode Island, Newport, Warwick, and North Kingstown, to both examine how green infrastructure can be used in the coastal zone, as well as provide guidance for other municipalities on using green infrastructure. And we'll be looking at specific sites in each of the communities and developing some broad designs for how green infrastructure can be used in each of those municipalities. CRMC, as well as the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and other partnering organizations around the state, have received funding from the Department of Interior to engage in a number of salt marsh restoration projects. And these projects are very exciting because they build upon the work that was done in 2014 and earlier, looking at how salt marshes are being impacted or will be impacted by sea level rise. And these restoration projects are going to be using new and innovative techniques that haven't been used necessarily in the area, including things like thin layer deposition, which is basically using dredge material sprayed in a thin layer on top of a marsh to help the marsh increase in elevation so that it doesn't drown in place as sea levels rise. Restoration activities will also involve strategic drainage digging to help water get drained off the marsh, again, so it's not pooling and drowning marsh vegetation. And living shoreline techniques and marsh edge enhancement techniques will be examined as well through these restoration projects. Restoration will be conducted in a number of sites along the south shore of Rhode Island, including the Narrow River estuary and Ninigret Pond, as well as planning projects will be conducted for restoration in Quanaketug and Winnipesaukee ponds. And these restoration projects are being conducted in partnership between CRMC, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Salt Ponds Coalition, the town of Charleston, and the town of Westerly, as well as the Department of Environmental Management and Save the Bay. So it's an exciting project, and we hope to hear more about how all those projects are going. One thing we started in 2015 and will continue to work on through 2015 is putting together an adaptation catalog of different types of techniques and strategies, things that people and businesses and property owners can do to deal with the impacts of storms, sea level rise, and coastal erosion. So these catalogs are just meant to be a brief overview of the different types of actions that people or property owners or businesses can take to both understand their exposure, how they might better design or site their facility if they're building something new, how they can retrofit their existing property, any type of planning or preparedness that might help them be more resilient in the future, and providing an array of resources so people can go find out more information on some technique or strategy that might make sense for them. As I mentioned earlier, the Fortified program, which is a program from the Institute of Business and Home Safety, which is a nonprofit that is geared towards helping to create programs that increase the resilience of buildings to natural hazards. And in this case, it would be storm events along the coast. So the Fortified program is a voluntary Code Plus program that provides guidance on how to better build a new property or how to retrofit an existing property so that there is less damage from storm events. So we have a stakeholder meeting about this in 2014, but we continue to work with the Institute of Business and Home Safety to train both building officials and builders in the state who are interested in building fortified homes in what the program is, what are some of the recommendations and guidelines of the program, and how it can really help to reduce damage in the coastal zone. We've been engaging students from a variety of universities around Rhode Island in the Beach SAMP process, and we'll continue to do that in 2015. One type of class we've engaged is the landscape architecture studios at URI, and we've had students focused on Newport and Wickford and adaptation design and planning for specific areas in those locations. And it's been very interesting to hear what the students have come up with in terms of adaptation design and making adaptation not only functional but visually appealing. We've also engaged the Ocean Engineering Department and their senior design class. In 2014, they worked on an assessment of 2 marinas in Rhode Island to look at the vulnerability of those marinas to storms and sea level rise. And they also created a template for other marinas and marina operators in the state to use to examine their own vulnerability. So this senior class design will continue in 2015, and in the fall we'll have another class looking at new issues that have come out of the Beach SAMP. But it's an excellent way to get some fresh eyes on a project and bring in the engineering perspective, which is very needed. In 2015, we'll continue to really focus on informing and engaging the public. As I mentioned, we want to have stakeholder meetings throughout the state to get a wide range of audience members. We'll continue to do field trips like erosion walks along the South Shore and holding local meetings so people can really get a look at the maps for their area and see how sea level rise and shoreline change is going to be impacting them and their community. And to go along with these events, we create an array of different printed materials, website resources, and so please visit beachsamp.org to access a lot of those. And everything done through the Beach SAMP is really done in partnership with various different agencies, universities, organizations, foundations, um, and municipalities. And we'll continue to work in partnership on the Beach SAMP in 2015 and beyond, because the more heads we can get thinking about the issues of shoreline change and sea level rise and storm resilience, the better. So that's just been a very brief overview of our 2015 work plan. Again, I hope you all visit www.beachsamp.org if you're interested in finding out more about this or about meetings that you might want to attend to learn more. All right, thanks again.